Legend of Exorcism. Chapter 49. The Leader of the Wolf Pack. In the dark night, the grey wolf brought Lu Su along as it came to a halt on a small slope in the northern region of the Qilian Mountains. It looked down towards the village below. To the north of the village, horse hooves clattered in unison like a drum beat. Every time the hooves rose and fell, they would make a muffled thud when they met the ground. The grey wolf let out a deep, muffled roar, at which Lu Su widened his eyes and couldn't stop shaking. With that furious roar of the grey wolf, the wolf pack was filled with fear, and each wolf backed away in retreat. The grey wolf turned its head, angrily watching the wolf pack, before leading the way as it rushed down the slope. The other wolves arched their backs, their hairs standing on end, before finally bowing before the power of the grey wolf and rushing down behind it in a swarm. The black, dense mass of thousands of corpse ghosts and horses rushed forward like the tide, instantly swallowing the entire village. It was only then that alarm bells began to sound in the village. Shouts of confusion and terror rang out, along with the crying of children, as everything fell into chaos. The charging corpse ghosts were thousands in number. With a tilt of its body, the grey wolf tossed Lu Su off its back, roaring, "Lu Su! You take the citizens somewhere safe to hide." In a flash, the grey wolf once again grew larger, charging into the village from the south side, shouting, "Run!" A huge wolf, its body bathed in moonlight, rushed in. Upon hearing the grey wolf's roar, the villagers instantly came back to themselves, no longer caring about their possessions as they all fled. The grey wolf raced across the rooftop, and the structures it trod upon immediately collapsed. It rushed right along the street, and with a long howl, it charged into the midst of the riders. The riders were bowled over by its charge, scattering every which way. The corpse ghosts at the front of the charge each lifted their long spears, moving in unison as they rushed at the grey wolf. Just as the grey wolf was about to collide with the spear formation, the grey wolf leapt up into the air, and with a turn, changed into a mask-wearing Amorigin. In that instant, Amorigin was like an Arctic gyre streaking through the sky. With one foot, he landed on top of the oncoming spears as his left hand drew his bow and his right hand pulled out the 7 nailed arrows. With several consecutive shiu-shius, the 7 arrows all flew out one by one, dancing and weaving across the battlefield. When Amorigin started to fall to the ground, he once again changed into the grey wolf, charging right into the midst of the fray. The 7 nailed arrows, glowing with the light of magic, flew across the entire battlefield, shooting the helmets off the corpse ghosts. Every time an arrow flew towards an enemy, it would always strike the face within the helmet, piercing straight through the corpse ghost's head, but the corpse ghosts still flooded towards the grey wolf like the tide. After they had been trod upon by it, they struggled to rise, throwing themselves forwards to grab its legs. With a turn, the grey wolf turned back into Amorigin. Before he even landed, he waved a hand in the air. With a shua, the 7 nailed arrows all flew back, and as they returned, countless helmets fell off. The corpse ghosts continued to rush forward, the ones behind filling in the gaps that the ones in front had left, flooding towards Amorigin, who turned his hands in a circle and recited a chant. The 7 nailed arrows all returned to his side, beginning to circle wildly. Amorigin then spread his hands out to the sides, shouting, "Go!" The 7 arrows created a surge of magic like a hurricane as they shot out in all directions, sending the corpses' ghosts within the vicinity exploding outwards. There are really too many. Amorigin rushed left and right, roaring angrily, "What exactly are you all? Where did you come from?" The corpse ghosts advanced wave after wave, leaping onto him. Amorigin was pressed onto the ground. Even more corpse ghosts swarmed him, piling together into a mountain. Suddenly, with another wild roar, the grey wolf rose from the ground, sending that small mountain of corpse ghosts flying. The stray arrows flew every which way as the grey wolf ran in every direction, trying to break through. From afar came a cry. "Li Ming Xing!" The grey wolf swiftly turned its head, only to see that Lu Su was holding that shovel as he and the wolf packs did their utmost to prevent the invasion of the corpse ghosts. The grey wolf. The grey wolf immediately shook its body and changed. Emorigin retreated back to the village, leaping up high to take a look, only to see that Lu Su's movements were extremely speedy. He had a dagger belted at his waist, and both his hands clenched around a metal shovel, as he moved as swiftly as the wind. When the corpse ghosts rushed towards him, his shovel came slicing down towards them, sending their heads flying, drawing out arcs as they landed on the ground. The villagers had already fled up the slope of the mountain. Emorigin pressed his fingers against his lips, and with a whistle, he turned into the grey wolf and charged back down. At that time, he saw Lu Su swing that shovel wide, whistling through the wind as he slapped it to the left, slapped it to the right, chopped in front, swept past, sliced horizontally, flicked upwards. Once in a while, with a feint, he would rush 5 steps away with a shua, and sometimes he would shove it under a corpse ghost's crotch and turn back with a twist. Emorigin. Go. The grey wolf leapt down and roared, "Don't fight anymore. Come back." Lu Su rushed towards the grey wolf, but with a turn, he leapt to the other side of the grey wolf, letting out a last, desperate battle cry. With his 2 hands on his shovel, he slammed that shovel down, pinning the corpse ghosts that were slicing down at the grey wolf with blades to the ground, ending their lives. The grey wolf turned, and Lu Su leapt onto its back. The corpse ghosts had already overrun the village like a locust infestation. Under the onslaught of this black tide, the village continued to collapse ceaselessly, before a final boom rang out. The grey wolf stood on the slope, turning its head back to look, only to see that the villagers' expressions were filled with fear as they trembled and stared at this huge wolf. Their gazes then lifted to the young scout on its back. "Wolf god," someone shouted. "Li Ming Xing." The people of the village all fell to their knees in worship. "Follow the southern path along the Kilian mountains," the grey wolf said quietly. "To the south there is a little village. Stay there first to take shelter from the cold, before you find another way down south. Head to the closest county capital to seek help, go quickly." The citizens all dispersed. An odd gurgling sound came from the grey wolf's throat, and the wolf packs all flattened themselves to the ground, before also dispersing. Lu Su panted, holding that metal shovel in his hand as he trembled non-stop. "Your martial ability's not bad." The grey wolf lowered its head slightly, its eyes glowing with a green light, as if they were 2 gems inlaid within a sea of darkness. It observed the movements below the mountain. The corpse ghost's target seemed to only be this one village, and after the residents had escaped up the mountain, they didn't give chase. Rather, after overrunning the village, they slowly vacated it, gathering on the plains in massive numbers like a swarm of ants before dispersing again. "Should we give chase?" The grey wolf lifted its chin slightly, asking Lu Su. Lu Su returned the shovel to its position on his back, before climbing back on and hugging the grey wolf's neck. The grey wolf leapt into the snow, tailing the corpse ghost troop as they headed to the northeast. In Liangzhou City. As soon as night fell, the entire city chilled. Every family shut their doors tightly and raised a fire in their charcoal stove to keep warm. Qin Liang said to his madam, "Today, we have honored guests, so make a few more dishes and slaughter a chicken. Also, bring some wine." Hung Jun untied his bundle, but just as he was about to ask if he could get a few meatballs for the Carpio to eat, Madame Qin saw it, and smiled. "Wow! So polite. You even brought food for a dish. Perfect, I'll go deep fry this." "This isn't for a dish," Hung Jun hurried to say. "I'm not a dish," the Carpio explained to Madame Qin. "A little bit of meat is fine for me, I don't eat much, but if you don't have any, then steamed buns or dumplings are also fine." Madame Qin let out a sharp cry, frightened to the point she almost fainted away. Li Jinglong hurried to explain, and finally Madame Qin managed to accept the explanation that the Carpio could speak, as well as the origins of the exorcism department. Qin Liang hurriedly sent her off to make dinner. Then, that Hu girl came in again, watching the Carpio curiously as she began to set the table. "This is my daughter, Qin Xian," Qin Liang introduced her to the two. "My only child." With that, Li Jinglong and Hung Jun greeted her. Hung Jun was very taken aback, and he asked, "Is your wife an Uyghur person?" Li Jinglong hurried to correct him. "You need to be respectful, call her madam." But Qin Liang said, "Happily, her mother and I first met under the Yang Pass 17 years ago, and we were wed according to the traditions of us Han people." Qin Liang then idly exchanged a few sentences with Li Jinglong. He was originally from the Longzi area, and when he was young, his family had arranged for him to serve under the command of the Hexi Vice-Judushi, organizing books and documents. Afterwards, when the Vice-Judushi retired, Qin Liang was transferred to Shazhu. As of today, Geshu Han had assumed command of Liangzhou and had been appointed Duke of Liang for his accomplishments. Because Qin Liang had always been an honest official, never embezzling any military funds, he was called back to be the Liangzhou county governor. But because Liangzhou and the surrounding regions were located close to the border on the northeast, the Judushi was in charge. The heavens were important, and the earth was important, but Geshu Han was the most important of them all. Whatever he said was the final word. Monetary and military power were all controlled by the old general. Qin Liang was only in charge of drafting up documents, converting the land into farmland, maintaining the academies, and mediating disputes within the troops. To tell the truth, he didn't hold much power at all, and his life was subsequently free of any taint. Not long after, Madame Qin came in to lay out the dishes. To properly entertain the guests, she had specially killed a chicken, and Li Jinglong was very apologetic at that, only for Qin Xian to tear off a chicken leg for Li Jinglong to eat. Li Jinglong then let Hung Jun have it. Qin Xian gave him a look for that, but she didn't say anything. Qin Liang opened a jar of sealed wine, saying to Li Jinglong, "Though I believe that there are ghosts and gods, in the end, I feel that the Yaoguai are very distant from us. Seeing that you guys are bringing this Yaoguai along, I imagine that the exorcism department does have some real ability." Hung Jun almost spat out the soup with a pu, thinking, why is it that the Carpio proves that the exorcism department has the necessary skills? Li Jinglong lifted his cup. "It's no more than a matter of having a salary granted by the emperor in exchange for carrying out our duties." Saying this, he and Qin Liang saluted each other with their cups. Hung Jun asked, "How about we bring Zhao Zilong along tomorrow for General Geshu Han to take a look at?" The Carpio was currently in the middle of using chopsticks to pick up a meatball and stuff it into its mouth. Upon hearing those words, it was shocked, and it protested, "What will you do if he wants to cut off my head in place of Xinqi's?" Li Jinglong put his cup down at that, saying, "I'm guessing that great General Geshu Han isn't old and set in his ways, but rather acting as his position demands." The hall was silent for a moment, before Qin Liang let out a heavy sigh. He answered, "It's exactly as you say. Which is why, in front of Li Xinqi, I have one thing to ask." "Hung Jun." Li Jinglong turned his head to watch Hung Jun, saying, "Do you remember what the Crown Prince said to us before we set off?" Hung Jun racked his brains for what the Crown Prince had said back then. Li Hung had indeed wished for Li Jinglong to investigate this matter fully and resolve it successfully, without influencing the relations with the Uyghurs, taking all precaution to avoid fighting. Hung Jun noticed that Qin Liang's madam and daughter were both Uyghurs. Qin Liang said to Li Jinglong, "I feel like more or less, starting a war with the Uyghurs is something that Chancellor Yang is trying to facilitate. The relationship between Great General Geshu Han and An Lushan and Shi Siming has always been one of fire and water." "Dad," Qin Xian said unhappily. Qin Liang waved a hand, indicating that it was all right. Li Jinglong's brow was furrowed deeply as he said, "Old General Geshu Han must deal amicably with the Chancellor of the Right, Yang Hong. Qin Liang replied, of course. I imagine that Chancellor Yang also has the intention of cozying up to him. The Tubo and Uyghur people also often send out envoys to the Hexi-Jadushi manor. Li Jinglong ned, and with his brow still firmly furrowed, he said, so Chancellor Yang has persuaded old General Geshuhan and won over the Tubo people to turn on the Uyghurs as enemies. This is a difficult situation. Correct, Qin Liang said. Because the Crown Prince, when he was leading the troops out on the battlefield, he and Gili Kagan were good friends. Whether it was his esteemed cousin being appointed as general, or the conquering of Greater Bolo last year, these were all only accomplished with the help of Gili Kagan. Originally, I believed that in these few years, the relations between the imperial court and the Uyghurs would enter a period of peace, but I never expected. Hung Jun's brain was filled with a cloud of fog as he listened to the two of them speak. He said, I don't understand, Yang Hong persuading Ge, that what's his name old general, doesn't want to appear too close with the Uyghurs, so he wants to count the stead of these pillaged border cities on the Uyghurs' account. Li Jinglong replied. That's exactly how it is. Hung Jun furrowed his brow. But how did he know who pillaged the border cities? Do you guys think that he knows about corpse ghosts? When Li Jinglong heard this, his hairs immediately stood on end. If Yang Hong knew about this matter, that would be a little too frightening. Qin Liang answered, why would he, the Chancellor of the Right, care about the life or death of the troops and citizens of the borders? No matter how you look at it, the cities have been pillaged. The Turks will do, the Uyghurs will also do, and even if it was the Tubo or ghost troops, that makes no difference to him. What he wants is only an excuse to submit a petition to His Majesty that will start a war with the Uyghurs. With this, Li Jinglong said, I'm afraid that within Liangzhou city, a lot of people's lives will become very difficult. All of the Uyghur people will be exiled, Qin Liang sighed. Which is why, Li Zhenqi, this mission has a deep significance. With General Geshuhan's strong first impression of you, he won't believe you, and even if he did, he would still have his own misgivings. Li Jinglong said heavily, he's too negligent. The way I see it, the trouble that the corpse ghosts bring has far exceeded the severity that Yang Hong has calculated. Right now, though we don't know why they are doing this, but we can confirm that if we don't investigate it in full quickly, we might. Li Jinglong stared into Qin Liang's eyes, enunciating each word carefully. Be dragged into a calamity. Everyone, even if it's General Geshuhan himself, will be swallowed by it, and be doomed for all eternity. In the dark night, on the plains in the middle region of Hexi, the black mass of the army charged forward at full speed. The grey wolf, still with Lu Su on its back, began to pant. I'm too tired, the grey wolf said, breathing heavily. I need to rest for a bit. Lu Su said, blood. Am I bleeding? The grey wolf searched for a mountain cave that was sheltered from the wind, and after sniffing a few times, found one on the side of a mountain. Lu Su reached back and felt along the grey wolf's back, only to find that his entire hand was covered in blood. Immediately, he grew alarmed. It's not urgent, the grey wolf said as it used its claws to paw away at the snow on the mountainside, digging out a pit to reveal a cavern. Lu Su hurried to leap off, and the grey wolf bent over and squeezed in, turning into a human. With one hand pressed against the cavern wall, Amorigin panted. It took a long time for him to catch his breath. A little while later, a campfire blazed to life in the cavern. Amorigin took off his shirt, revealing the well-formed, powerful muscles of his back. Long periods of pulling a bow and knocking an arrow to it caused his back and shoulders to be filled with a kind of male power and beauty. He chewed on the dry rations, which dried his mouth out, and without stopping for breath, he ate quite a lot of snow. Several gashes were etched across his back, but because they were wounds he had gained in his grey wolf form, they weren't very deep when he turned back into a human. Lu Su chewed up some medicinal herbs, and after spitting them out, he applied the paste evenly across Emorigen's back. As for the rest of the medicine, Lu Su applied it on Emorigen's abdomen. "Sleep a bit," Emorigen said to Lu Su. "There's still time." Lu Su let out a yawn. In this single day, both his spirit and his body had been greatly tested, and he curled up in exhaustion inside the cavern, falling asleep. But the cold winter nights were getting even colder, and as he slept, Lu Su couldn't help but shiver. A moment later, Emorigen took on the huge form of the grey wolf, using its claws to pull Lu Su over and wrapping him in its embrace. They faced the campfire, one human and one wolf, falling asleep together. In the depths of the night, the icy wind howled wildly. Qin Liang's residence only had one guest room, and Hung Jun had laid down on his own. Li Jinglong was still sitting in front of the table, penning a letter by the light of the oil lamp. When he was young, Li Jinglong had copied Lu Ji's works, so his writing was very beautiful. Even students born from families known for their literary merits like Xu Yangxi couldn't resist sighing at their own limited abilities in comparison. Wrapped in the blankets, Hung Jun couldn't resist lifting his head to peer over, asking, "Who are you writing to?" "To His Highness the Crown Prince." "If you're sleepy, then sleep first," Li Jinglong urged him. "Don't watch any more." Hung Jun was a little cold. Before, at the peak of the Taihang Mountains, Chongming was there, so he had never fallen prey to the cold in the winter. He asked, "In the human realm, is it especially cold this year, or is every year like this?" "Every year is like this," Li Jinglong said, glancing at Hung Jun. "Warm your bed properly." Hung Jun was wrapped up very tightly, with only his head peeking out of the blankets, like a spring roll. "Hung Jun." Li Jinglong was in the middle of writing when he faltered, unable to put his brush to the paper. If he were to repeat Qin Liang's words as if they were true, after they were sent, perhaps they would stir up enmity between the Crown Prince and Geshu Han. If he didn't write them, then he would be guilty of hiding the truth. "Don't write any more," Hung Jun said. After several days of constant traveling, he was so tired he could die, and he said, "Sleep ba, you still haven't recovered from your cold." Li Jinglong's head was an absolute tangle, and after mulling over it again and again, he finally tore the letter up, untied his outer robe, and went under the blankets. Outside, the wild wind didn't stop blowing as if it was trying to blow the roof off the house, but the bed in the bedroom was very warm. "Why is it that whenever we're traveling, no matter where we go, there's only one room?" Hung Jun noted. "Yo, I don't mind you, but you're minding me now." Li Jinglong looked Hung Jun up and down, and Hung Jun hurried to deny it. In reality, Li Jinglong's entire body was warm and cozy, especially with that heart lamp in his chest, which had him feeling very comfortable. "I'm just curious," Hung Jun said muzzily. "Chang'an right now is also this cold," Li Jinglong said easily. The two of them idly exchanged a few sentences, but Hung Jun could no longer clearly make out what he was saying. Compared to the abandoned barracks of last night, Qin Liang's house was as comfortable as a palace. He couldn't remember what he said in his daze, but Li Jinglong put out his arm for Hung Jun to pillow his head on, and Hung Jun, his head placed close to Li Jinglong's chest, fell asleep just like that. The night was long, and in a patch of endless darkness, Hung Jun suddenly began to have a strange dream after sleeping for who knows how long. In that dream, there was a person who was currently burning, a flame in black fire. Save me, a man's voice said. Hung Jun wanted to say something, but when he opened his mouth, he couldn't make a sound. In the blink of an eye, countless memories flashed by him, causing him to travel through time. Outside the doors of the exorcism department, there was a warrior clad in golden armor, holding a glowing longsword in his hand, while his father and mother knelt in front of that warrior. "I only have this one child." The scenery flashed before him, and Hung Jun seemed to become a different person. He had grown much taller, and he stood in the yard filled with the warmth and blossoms of spring. When he turned his head back to look towards the corridor, a beautiful woman wearing a Han gown, walked through the long corridor, accompanied by a spring breeze. She turned her head to observe him. In a flash, black fire enveloped his entire body, and Hung Jun instantly panicked and retreated non-stop. Zenshi dash. Hung Jun's eyes shot open, and he sat up violently. Outside, the wind was blowing as usual, and the sky was overcast and dark. The night had already passed, but the Li Jinglong on the bed had already disappeared to who knows where. The phoenix plume was placed on the table, along with a message. In the morning I received a letter that Mt. Wu had fallen prey to a sudden night ambush from the corpse ghosts. Governor Qin and I are going to investigate the situation. Hung Jun picked up the phoenix plume and placed it in his lap before putting on his clothes and rushing out like the wind. End chapter. Legend of Exorcism. Chapter 50. Black clouds over the city. Li Jinglong doesn't want you going out, Qin Xian said from her position outside the hall, where she was shelling a basket of edamame. Hung Jun furrowed his brow. How is that possible? Where did they go? Where's Zhao Zilong? Hung Jun grabbed the carpiao, wrapping it up while it was still sopping wet. The carpiao was greatly startled at that, and it asked, where are we going now? Hung Jun came to the backyard, mounted his horse, and looked around at his surroundings in a daze. Qin Xian slung her bow over her shoulder, having changed into a fur-lined coat, and she came out, saying, head towards the south, to the foot of the Qilian Mountains, Mt. Wushan village. Today a lot of people went there, even the great general. You. Qin Xian said, every time, my dad rushes forward recklessly without taking heed of his own life. I'll go with you. Hung Jun then took Qin Xian along. She led the way, and the two rushed towards Liangzhou city. Outside the city, in the depths of the night, they had just gotten the news, and Zhang Hao was taking head count. Qin Xian said angrily, you guys are only leaving the city now. Hung Jun hurried to shush Qin Xian. Right now, they couldn't afford to stir up any trouble, but since Qin Xian was more worried about her father's safety, she had forgotten about another trouble. As soon as Zhang Hao saw Hung Jun on the horse, he was immediately stunned. That's him. Zhang Hao shouted. Capture him. Quick. Someone, go notify the old general. Quite a few of the soldiers had also recognized Hung Jun, and they all moved to close the city gates. Seeing that the situation was not good, Hung Jun hurried to shout, hold on tight. I'm charging through. Qin Xian hugged Hung Jun tightly, and Hung Jun wrapped the reins around his left hand. In his right, his throwing daggers became one, and it sliced towards the city gates. The city gates were immediately split in two, and they let out a huge boom as they collapsed. Chase them! Geshu Han roared, infuriated. He was wearing a full set of armor, and heeled a large group of troops behind him as he shouted, you dare to destroy my city gates? Where's Li Jinglong? Capture them all and drag them into the dungeons. With that, another crime was added to Hung Jun's ledger. Usually, he didn't want to cause trouble, he was afraid of causing more frustration for Li Jinglong. As of today though, since his own immediate superior had caused such a large mess, who would be afraid of these people? You can't catch up. Hung Jun turned his head back and called. All of you go back. B.A., General, your age is already so advanced. Geshu Han. Hung Jun had never been afraid of the heavens or the earth. Upon hearing these words, all the blood rushed to Geshu Han's head, and he roared, chase them. Don't stop until you capture them. That horse that Hung Jun was riding was indeed a noble steed. Though it bore the burden of two people, that was no more than the weight of a single heavily armored rider as far as it was concerned. It tossed its hooves, and like the wind, it dashed off to the south, leaving not even a trace. At the same time, Li Jinglong and Qin Liang had just passed through a small village called Kuyuan, with almost 200 troops following behind them. Noon had just arrived, but the village was already filled with citizens seeking refuge, and it was still 60-some li to empty. Wu. Li Jinglong hurried to clamber off his horse and question them. What's the current situation in MT? Wu village. The two villages in MT. Wu and MT. And had been pillaged last night, in exactly the same way as the 4 cities in Siwai. The citizens all cried and sobbed, they had all escaped from those 2 villages. Upon hearing those words, Li Jinglong thanked the heavens and the earth, he would be able to preserve his own head. What did the people who attacked your village look like? Li Jinglong asked anxiously. An oaf shouted loudly, how would I know? It was dark with no lights. We couldn't see anything. Li Jinglong. That, Qin Liang said awkwardly. Zenji, how about let's let the past injustices visited upon us sit for a bit, and go look at MT. Wu first. Li Jinglong almost coughed up blood in anger from that oaf's words. Suddenly, a murder of crows sped by overhead, letting out frighteningly hoarse caws. With a few steps, Li Jinglong leapt up onto the rooftops, staring towards the south. There were more citizens with their families in tow who described the appearance of the wolf god last night to Qin Liang and his group, how it had saved their entire families, and so on and so forth. Quite a few villagers had set up a temporary altar in the village to worship the compassionate wolf god of the mountains that had saved the beings of the world. Qin Liang wasn't listening closely, and he called upwards, Li Zhenji, are we leaving just like this? A cold wind began to blow, and Li Jinglong leapt off the rooftop, shouting, retreat. All of you, retreat. Citizens, go hide in the cellars. Qin Liang said, what? Li Jinglong replied, my nose is still clogged. You guys sniff around, isn't there an odor on the wind? At this moment, the south wind began to blow, and there was indeed a whiff of corpse odor in the air. Qin Liang's expression immediately changed, and he said darkly, Li Zhenji, are they heading this way? Li Jinglong immediately had the soldiers begin to set down defenses. He had spent a long time training in the Longwu army, and he knew a variety of defensive measures like the back of his hand. However, the soldiers that Qin Liang led were militia from Liangzhou city, and the trained guards were under Geshu Han's command. These militia members were usually only in charge of mediating disputes and doing some heavy lifting, but they were not capable of marching forth and fighting battles. Prepare some braziers. Li Jinglong shouted. Search through every household and bring all of the oil here. The militia members stared at each other. Qin Liang said, Phi RMLY, all of you, listen to Li Zhenji, quick. With that, all of the citizens and soldiers in Kuyuan village began to move. Li Jinglong asked, when will the supporting troops arrive? Qin Liang responded, Zhang Hao only began to take head count in the early morning, so I'm afraid it'll be 2 or 3 more Shishan yet. Li Zhenji, are you sure that they'll head this way? Another group of crows cawed as they flew overhead. Li Jinglong originally wanted to say very certain, after all, for murders of crows to fly overhead meant that a large troop had disturbed the birds hibernating in the woods, but thinking about his unlucky fate, how every time, whatever he said something, that something wouldn't happen, he decided it would be better not to pass judgment so quickly. Perhaps, Li Jinglong said hesitantly. It's hard to say. Qin Liang was shocked. It's hard to say. The surrounding soldiers all bore expressions of you're kidding me, and they all put down their bows, thinking, you're not sure, and you still want us to stand guard here? The cold wind was piercing, and there wasn't even a single brick wall in Kuyuan. There was only a wooden stockade made up of many logs bound together, which was only used to prevent the entry of wolf packs. Several boxes were piled up in the stockade, which sufficed as city towers, and outside were 2 great wooden doors operated by wooden wheels. Li Jinglong asked, should we send the citizens back to the Liangzhou government office? Qin Liang said earnestly, Li Zhenji, of the people here, Only you have fought with the corpse ghosts before. Today, it was also you who. Qin Liang observed Li Jinglong, the meaning in his words evident. Li Jinglong understood what the other half of that sentence that he hadn't spoken was. In reality, when they had received the emergency report at the 5th gang, Li Jinglong had come to a decision on the spot and requested Qin Liang to immediately send his troops forth to Mt. Wu. Not caring about violating orders, Qin Liang had deployed his troops on his own authority, solely based on Li Jinglong's word. Naturally, Li Jinglong understood that he couldn't let Qin Liang shoulder the blame for this. He would need to make a decision. He hesitated for a moment, and finally said, "Leave half of the troops to guard the city, and have the other half take the citizens and retreat towards Liangzhou city. Quick! Qin Liang, then, everyone, follow General Li's orders today." Li Jinglong nodded, and with swift steps, strode on up high, casting his gaze over the distant plains. The soldiers behind him began to organize the citizens into an orderly retreat. A whole half a shishan later, Li Jinglong was sunk into a state of tremendous horror, as if he had already entered a whole new world with his bad luck. If this village was completely untouched by anything, he would have no choice but to be easy prey, to be caught like a turtle in a jar by Geshuhan currently rushing this way. Plus, he would be cursed to death by the citizens of the region. It shouldn't come to that. Li Jinglong took a deep breath and comforted himself. I have the heart lamp, so I'm definitely someone that the heavens have entrusted a heavy duty to. I won't have my head chopped off by Geshuhan just like this, but the heart lamp wasn't mine in the first place. If I think of it like that, then that does seem to be stretching things a little. I've made a very grave mistake, Li Jinglong said to Qin Liang. Qin Liang was frightened by Li Jinglong, and he broke out into another cold sweat. He asked, "Li Zhenqi, what does that mean?" Li Jinglong answered, "Hung Jun isn't here. In a bit, if on the off chance that the corpse ghost army hasn't arrived yet and old General Geshuhan arrives first, I can only flee." "Please don't." Qin Liang was greatly taken aback. The heart lamp that Li Jinglong had could only defeat monsters, he couldn't defeat mortals. What was the point of pointing the heart lamp at humans and shining it on them? It would only be able to make them move their eyes back and forth a little. Thousands of troops were rushing towards them, and no matter how good his abilities were, he would still befall the fate of being trampled to death. If he had known earlier, he would have hardened his heart and woken Hung Jun. At least then, if they escaped, there would be the pentacolor sacred light to shield them, which would spare his life. "Then you can only pray that the corpse ghost army comes," Qin Liang responded. "Look." At twilight, the earth below trembled gently, and Li Jinglong jolted before hurriedly rushing up high. "They're here!" Li Jinglong roared angrily. They had finally come. That large army was like a series of black tide marks, gathering from all directions, becoming a black tide that rushed ceaselessly north. "Li Jinglong." Qin Liang's voice trembled. "How many are there?" 10,000. Li Jinglong squared them up and estimated their numbers. "It can only be more, not less." "How many people do we have?" Qin Liang then asked. 100, Li Jinglong responded. "Everyone." The 10,000-strong corpse ghost army rushed towards them like the tide, mercilessly crushing the woods on the southern side of the village as if a locust swarm was passing through. 10,000 hoofbeats were like the beat of a battle drum, striking the earth in a rhythmic pattern. The earth shook, and Li Jinglong couldn't help stepping back and observing his surroundings. All the guards were already shaking uncontrollably, and even Qin Liang began to grow afraid. "What should we do now?" Decisively, Li Jinglong pulled out an arrow and placed it on the bow, before drawing it and taking aim at that 10,000-strong corpse ghost army that was approaching non-stop. The black masses of armored riders rumbled along, drawing ever closer to Kuyuan village. "Listen to my call. As soon as the arrows are released, everyone light the fires," Li Jinglong said solemnly. After you push the oil vats down, retreat immediately. The soldiers already wanted to shrink back, and they trembled incessantly as they held the torches. With a quick circulation of his qi, the arrow in Li Jinglong's hand exploded with bright light. He knew that if this arrow wasn't able to boost morale, then what little was left would instantly be dispelled under the onslaught of that large army, so he drew upon all of the power of the heart lamp. In that instant, the white light spewed outwards, covering the heavens and earth, becoming a tangible aurora on the wind. "Wow, he's glowing," the soldiers murmured. At the same time, Li Jinglong felt a writhing pain in his heart. But in the next second, the seal on his chest let out a weng and began to glow, delivering the power of the Kun god which helped to protect his heart meridian. "What's that?" Qin Liang suddenly asked. Li Jinglong's entire body glowed with a bright light, and behind him appeared a dim outline of a deity statue. The light flowed into his eyes as he gazed into the distance, and in that instant, everything became impossibly clear. A huge wolf, with a youth riding on its back, raced through the snow, leading the 10,000-strong corpse ghost army towards the city. Before him, the sky was dark, and the grey wolf became one with the grey darkness of the snow. The youth was also wearing white, so it was incredibly difficult to make them out. Without a second thought, Li Jinglong aimed his arrow at that huge wolf in the front, but he didn't expect that huge wolf to let out an infuriated roar. "One of your own, don't shoot dash." Li Jinglong was greatly shocked, and he pulled back the arrow and the light at the same time, asking in a low voice, "Origin." The 10,000-strong corpse ghost armored riders rushed to about 100 paces outside of the village before their speed began to slow, and they spread out into a square formation. With a few steps, the grey wolf leapt into the air, flying into the village, upon which the soldiers all let out shouts of surprise. "Zenji," the grey wolf asked, shocked. "How come it's you? Run, quickly. The strange monsters are going to attack the city." In the blink of an eye, the corpse ghost army outside the city raised their spears at the same time, all of them letting out a shout in unison. The thousands of troops started their charge towards Kuyuan village. Li Jinglong roared, "There's no time to explain." He could only once again draw his bow, and in that moment the light spread out to blanket the sky and the earth. As that shot flew out, bringing its strong light with it into the battle formation, everywhere it passed was as though the blazing sun had melted the snow, instantly ripping open a gap through the charging ranks. Qin Liang shouted, "Retreat!" The guards all tossed their torches into the pots of oil, before kicking them down. The waterfalls of fire poured down in torrents. The corpse ghost army had already arrived at the gates, so they were immediately engulfed in flames. The wooden city walls collapsed like paper that had been glued together. The grey wolf, with Lu Su in tow, leapt up onto the rooftops, and with a bellow, its body grew larger. Lu Su was almost thrown off, and he tightened his hold on the grey wolf's fur as it rushed into the battle formation, stomping everywhere, knocking over the corpse ghost cavalry. With the collapse of the walls, the human guards scattered in every direction. Within the chaos, Qin Liang shouted loudly, "Form ranks! Retreat!" Li Jinglong kept backing up, knocking arrow after arrow to his bow. The arrows flew through the sky like meteors, and the corpse ghosts that were hit tumbled off their horses. However, there were simply too many corpse ghosts, and they still rushed up, wave after wave. When they came close, Li Jinglong had no more spare time to draw arrows, so he could only pull out the sword of wisdom. With a loud shout, his wrist spun in a circle, and the sword of wisdom glowed with a bright light as he rushed towards the horde of corpse ghosts, slicing and slaughtering as he went. "Zenji! Use the heart lamp," the grey wolf roared. "I'm currently using it." Li Jinglong roared in response. He had no time to go over the events that had transpired with Origin, and he could only continue, "Catch a live one for me." The grey wolf called out, "These are all dead." "I know." With a sweep of his sword, Li Jinglong rushed towards the corpse ghosts right in front of him. At this time, the thousands of troops were charging wildly at them, and he had no time to pause for breath. Li Jinglong could only borrow the protection of the Grey Wolf as he and Lu Su fought to the left and right with the corpse ghosts. The village guards had long since fled far away. "You just catch a live one dash!" Li Jinglong roared. "After you catch a live one, then we'll leave." The Grey Wolf swatted away the corpse ghosts with a paw, shouting loudly. "They're all dead people. How am I supposed to catch a live one?" Li Jinglong. Lu Su, shovel in hand, rushed towards Li Jinglong's neck, and with a decisive thrust, the shovel's head shot right past Li Jinglong's neck, sending the nearby corpse ghost's head flying. Li Jinglong thought, "So fast. Who's this?" Li Jinglong called. "The Grey Wolf. Where's Hung Jun?" "At home sleeping." Li Jinglong shouted back. With a sweep of his sword, he cleared away the corpse ghost riders rushing towards the Grey Wolf. One human and one wolf kept asking each other their own questions. The corpse ghost's numbers grew as they watched, and the Grey Wolf could no longer hold up, its entire body riddled with wounds. Lu Su shouted, "Hey!" The Grey Wolf replied, "We're going now." The Grey Wolf was bleeding copiously, but it was exuding an aura of savage, wild bloodlust. It suddenly turned its head and let out a wild roar, which caused Li Jinglong's eardrums to tremble with faint pain. With a headlong rush, it sent multiple corpse ghosts and horses flying. "Catch one! Catch one! Catch!" Li Jinglong egged him on. "Which one?" the Grey Wolf shouted back, grabbing one its claw, not even glancing as it tossed the corpse ghost towards Li Jinglong behind him. The corpse plus the armor was a good 200 jin, and it almost flattened him to the ground. The Grey Wolf roared, "Is that one all right?" "It's not moving anymore." Li Jinglong called. "Catch a more lively one." The scene was a chaotic mess, and the Grey Wolf nabbed another corpse ghost. That corpse ghost was struggling non-stop, and it bit down on the Grey Wolf's claw. The Grey Wolf let out an angered cry of pain at that, before tearing it into two. The top half still crawled towards it. "This half will do," Li Jinglong shouted, putting his sword away. "Let's go." The Grey Wolf hurriedly used a discarded mantle lying on the ground to hold down that half of the corpse ghost, before lowering itself, letting Li Jinglong and Lu Su grab its sides, as its front right paw grabbed that bundle that held half a corpse ghost. Its other three claws raced rapidly as it escaped the formation. Behind them, Kuyuan village had already become nothing more than a merrily blazing ruin, and the corpse ghosts were struggling in the flames, their entire bodies burning with fire as they fled in all directions. But those corpse ghosts were clearly not willing to just let Li Jinglong go so easily. They were currently forming ranks outside of Kuyuan village. Just as the three of them had drawn some distance away, the entire army charged earth-shakingly towards them once again, racing after the Grey Wolf in pursuit. Li Jinglong shouted, "Run! Don't look back!" The Grey Wolf immediately turned its head back, and it said angrily, "Weren't they supposed to stop chasing us after we left the city? Who told you that? They're always like that." "Lu Su, I don't know." The corpse ghost army split into two parts, moving into a pincer formation to trap the Grey Wolf in their midst. The Grey Wolf roared, "We can't keep heading north. We'll bring them to Liangzhou city then." Li Jinglong was just about to have the Grey Wolf turn when he suddenly heard the thunder of hooves as loud as an avalanche, and a group of almost 20,000 guards rushed down from the north. "There's more," the Grey Wolf boomed. "Wait," Li Jinglong grabbed the long hair on the Grey Wolf's side. As their ride sped along bumpily underneath them, he managed to see Hung Jun at the head of the army, currently on horseback, rushing towards them. Hung Jun. Hung Jun spurred his horse faster, the distance between him and the Grey Wolf decreasing non-stop as he shouted, "There are enemies behind me. They've come to capture you, watch out." "Origin. Is that you?" Li Jinglong. Behind them was the group of 10,000 corpse ghosts, and in front was the 20,000 Liangzhou cavalry that Ge Han was leading. At that sight, Li Jinglong almost choked on his next breath, and he almost fainted. "Head west!" Li Jinglong called furiously. The grey wolf and the warhorse that Hung Jun was riding met up, taking a sharp turn and speeding towards the west. With a flying leap, Li Jinglong jumped towards the warhorse. But just at that time, Hung Jun also leapt towards the grey wolf, landing on it. The two of them exchanged places, and Li Jinglong was almost thrown off the horse before he managed to get a seat in the saddle, while Hung Jun clambered onto the grey wolf's back. "Hung Jun, what happened?" "Huh? And who are you?" "Li Jinglong." Behind Li Jinglong, Qin Xian demanded in reply, "Where's my dad?" Li Jinglong was filled with rage, and he immediately shouted, "Hung Jun." Hung Jun peeked behind the grey wolf, and just as he was about to shout, "I'll hop back right now," Ge Han's troops began to slow. But the corpse ghost army smashed into them in an earth-shaking collision. At that moment, Ge Han's cavalry was at a loss for what to do under the onslaught of that charge, and instantly, the troop was routed. Hung Jun immediately shouted, "Origin! Stop! I need to go back to save them." The battlefield was chaotic, and it was only now that Li Jinglong understood, the corpse ghost troops had no interest in them. The reason they had charged north was because Ge Han had come. Battle cries echoed in the distance as Hung Jun clambered off, saying to the grey wolf, "You're injured, your entire body is covered with blood, don't come over." Right then, another rider fled towards them, only to be shot through the heart by the corpse ghost's arrow, and he tumbled off his horse. Hung Jun clambered onto that horse and hurriedly rushed towards the battlefield. Li Jinglong shouted, "Are you crazy?" Hung Jun's heart beat wildly. He had brought these people along, but now, they had become trapped in this large-scale circular meat grinder. His conscience wouldn't be able to rest easy if he just left. He could only hold his glaive in his right hand, the pentacolor sacred light forming a shield in his left, as he rushed into the battle. "Dad dash!" Qin Xian shouted, rushing into the battle group. "Wait, what are you doing?" Li Jinglong was riding on the saddle behind her, and Qin Xian, in charge of the reins, shouted, "Xia!" Li Jinglong let out a loud shout. Before he could even pull out his sword, he had already been brought by Qin Xian into the battle. Hung Jun pushed open the pentacolor sacred light, and the corpse soldiers were immediately shoved into flying backwards, but within this chaotic battle, he didn't dare to swing his glaive around, because he was afraid that he might hurt their own. "Old General!" Hung Jun saw that Ge Han was covered in blood, and his helmet had fallen off at some point. He hurried to support him in rising up. Ge Han was enraged beyond belief, and he roared, "What matter of monstrosity?" He then pushed Hung Jun aside, took the glaive from him, and slashed wildly at the corpse ghosts. "Hey! Give me back my blade!" Hung Jun called. "Don't take my artifact!" All around them, countless corpse ghosts rushed up, but in the next moment, a white light flooded towards them, blanketing the sky and earth, accompanied by Li Jinglong's angered cry. The corpse ghosts surrounding them immediately disappeared, and with that, Li Jinglong rushed to Hung Jun and Ge Han's side. With a few slashes of his sword, wherever the light traveled, all of the corpse ghosts dissipated wholly. Qin Xian had already picked up her father. Qin Liang's head was covered in blood, and he had been shot in the arm by an arrow. Li Jinglong roared, "Quick, retreat! The old general has been rescued. You all aren't prepared, you won't defeat them." The cavalry were originally terrified, but to save their commander, they were willing to sacrifice themselves. Now that Ge Han had been saved, who still cared to battle? Of course they were planning to retreat. But just at this moment, from far behind the corpse ghost army, a Yaoguai's deep roar rang out. It issued forth from the destroyed ruins of Kuyuan village. That deep sound echoed over the entirety of the desolate plains, and the corpse ghosts actually no longer gave chase to the human army as they retreated like the tide. When the signal sounded, the grey wolf immediately raised its head. Li Jinglong instantly turned his head to look into the distance. The white snow obscured his vision, but the corpse ghosts had all retreated to the horizon, as if they were reorganizing their troops, preparing for a new round of battle. The nearly 20,000 people of the large Western Liang cavalry, without waiting for Geshu Han's orders, all turned around and fled, their tails between their legs. The grey wolf had half a corpse caught in its claw as it brought Lu Su along, following the warhorse as it exchanged news of the situation with Li Jinglong. In that icy land, its speed gradually slowed. In a short 2 days, the grey wolf said, its voice hoarse. They destroyed 3 whole villages, but luckily the heart lamp was effective. The grey wolf's breathing gradually grew heavier. In front, Li Jinglong reined his horse to a stop, turning to wait as he said, "Now, we already know that the corpse ghost army is 10,000 strong, and they have a leader. Origin." Hung Jun sensed that something was wrong. The grey wolf's body shrank, glowing with a faint light. Lu Su hopped off its back, only to see the grey wolf recover human form, transforming into Origin, who planted himself face first into the snow in a dead faint. Lu Su let out a piteous cry, only to see that Origin's entire body was slowly seeping blood, which soaked into the snowy ground surrounding him. 2 Shishan later, Li Jinglong, half carrying Origin, rushed into Geshu Han's general's manor. The Carpio carried a satchel of medicine, and Hung Jun was frantically digging through the bag to find medicine that would first stop the bleeding. The servant women were holding wetted cloths, and they were wiping away the bloodstains on Geshu Han's head covered in white hair. Still in shock, he stared at Li Jinglong, breathing heavily. The guards came and went through the estate as troop reports flooded in. "Li Jinglong, explain to me clearly, what exactly is going on here?" Geshu Han said. "I won't cut off your head, and also you, Kong Hung Jun, you saved this old man's life, and for that I will definitely repay you." End chapter.